Hello, hello. Friday's here, and the DraftKings Daily Trot is on tap. I'm Big Italy 42, joined by Josh Shepardson at BChad50 on Twitter, and we do have a full day slate. We have a morning slate. We have a night slate. 5 games early, 10 games late. Early slate. We'll give you the quick rundown here, like we did before, and it's pretty much going to be stacks. There's not a lot of good pitchers. I do like Colin McHugh. If you know me, you know I've got a thing for Colin McHugh. That's the only pitcher I feel comfortable with in the early slates. Get yourself some stacks. DraftKings pricing really tightened up today, so it's going to be tough to fit your stacks in there. And that's pretty much the only way I'm going early slate. How about you, Josh?
Yeah, I mean that's where you got to go, and love the McHugh call out. Last year he really thrived because he leaned on his fastball less and actually went to his secondary pitches. Big swing and miss stuff. Uses his four-seam fastball up in the zone. So the strikeouts, everything looks legit. If you got people still questioning Colin McHugh, don't. The increase in velocity and the change in pitch mix, like I believe in McHugh. But yeah, get your stacks ready and. Get ready to trot out some names at pitcher that you probably don't want to, that you're going to feel a little queasy clicking the add button with, but you got to get those stacks in. So that means sacrificing somewhere, and unfortunately that means probably that queasy, awful feeling in your stomach of clicking add for Tommy Malone or at least, I mean, if you're going to go cheap, Zach McAllister's not a bad look, as you said before the pod, but yeah, it's not going to be pretty.
Yeah, it's going to be McAllister, stack, and pray with your other. And even McAllister not in a great spot, but just 4,200. I mean, he's probably not going to kill you at that price. But either way, with your stacks, good luck. I'll be right behind you with some other stacks as well. And going on to the night slate here, starting at starting pitcher, obvious top option, weather permitting, of course. We know there are some concerns with Gio Gonzalez in Philadelphia today with the rain. Assuming those go, we talked about it on the other podcast, Gio Gonzalez is the top option on the night slate. I don't think it's particularly close.
No, and he's a little bit cheaper at DK than FanDuel, and because there's the two pitchers and you've got some really cheap pitching options to pair with him, I think he's pretty much a must-play. Definitely a cash games must-play, also pretty close to a must-play in GPPs. I mean, he's going to be a popular pick, but you're going to really be behind the eight ball if you fade him because that Philadelphia lineup is terrible. They're especially bad against left-handed pitching, and Gio Gonzalez, one of the better lefties in the league. So really got to get yourself some Gio. Behind him, I have four names jotted down here. We got $7,300 Taiwan Walker, who we discussed on the other pod. Love the fact he scrapped the cutter for the slider in the spring. The results were fantastic. I don't put much stock in spring results, but still like to hear the scouting reports about that slider looking better than the cutter. Really good minor league prospect coming up, was basically in the same breath as Jose Fernandez. So we got some real pedigree here. Really like him at O.co. Really low total there. This is actually an instance where if you're in a cash game, you might want to pair Walker and Pomeranz. Pomeranz only $6,400. With that total of just 7, you really have a chance at getting some deep pitching, some good pitching there, and saving some money to really load up on some hitters elsewhere. Now they're cheap. Two more cheap names for you. Brandon Morrow at $7,200. Low total in San Diego. Morrow, when he's on. Unfortunately, he's been injured and not on for the most part the last couple of years, but backed by a great ballpark for suppressing runs. Giants lineup is really nicked up. Not a bad team to pick on. Look at yesterday's game, for example. They didn't score a run until they got to extra innings yesterday. So good lineup to get a piece of. And then Brett Anderson at $6,200 looks good to me. Not really scared of the Diamondbacks lineup. He is a betting favorite today, one of the bigger betting favorites in the night slate. So I do like Brett Anderson. His ground ball inducing way should play really well at Chase Field.
Yeah, and I mean, mentioning that, I mean, it's a ridiculous 61% ground ball rate and just over 40 innings last year, but still, I mean, a guy that can keep it on the ground, and that's exactly what you need in Chase Field. So I like that call, and kind of covered all the bases there with starting pitching. So we're going to move on here to catcher. Popular play on the day is going to be Jonathan Lucroy at $4,600 at home against Pittsburgh. Jeff Locke, a lefty. All the factors going in Lucroy's favor today.
Yeah, and with the soft pricing on some of those pitchers, on the rare rosters where maybe you do fade Gio Gonzalez or if the game ends up getting rained out and you have to go on to your cheaper options. At $4,600, Lucroy's easily able to be budgeted for. Beyond him, I'm looking at Travis d'Arnaud for $3,800. Want a piece of Eric Stultz. Yasmani Grandal at $3,800. I think that the Dodgers hop all over Chase Anderson tonight, and grabbing a 5-hitter at catcher for $3,800, assuming he's starting and AJ Ellis doesn't get the nod, is pretty good. And then Sal Perez, a guy that we touched on the other podcast, $3,800, $800 savings from Lucroy. I expect him to move up in the lineup today against the lefty. So Perez looks pretty good at $3,800.
Yeah, I'm with you there, and I do love playing Perez in some tournaments. Always tends to go low owned because he's on the Royals, not an exciting team. The team that strikes out the least, but also hits the least amount of home runs. So not a big target for DFS players. So I like him as a nice swerve there. And moving on here to first base. As always, a bunch of big bats here. Adrian Gonzalez actually affordable on DraftKings today if you want to go that route and go with the crowd at $4,700. But going to be tremendously popular. Likely one of the most popular hitters, if not the most popular on the board tonight. So are you willing to go with the masses here, or are you trying to swerve off the path?
Well, I'm going to probably have a few Dodgers stacks in, and that's going to necessitate owning Gonzalez, which at $4,700 is doable. I mean, he's not priced like he is at FanDuel. His FanDuel price shot through the roof. But on the non-stacks, I'm going to have to fade him based on the fact that you got to have some contrarian picks, and everybody and their brother is going to be on Gonzalez. So if I don't have a Dodgers stack, he's probably not in the lineup, but I will have at least a Dodgers stack or two out in a couple of the GPPs. The other names that I'm looking at are Albert Pujols. $4,200 is a really good price point for him facing a lefty. Hitting third, I expect the Angels to they look like a sneaky decent stack today. Problem is Pujols and Cron are both first base eligible, so you can't get both into the lineup. You're going to have to do either a 1 through 4 stack or that wraparound stack using the bottom of the order is a possibility. Not something I love to do, but it is a decent contrarian play if you're looking to separate yourself from the masses. The other first baseman that I'm looking at are Matt Adams. Really want a piece of Jason Marquis. Good power. Great American Ballpark turns can of corns into first row home runs. So like Matt Adams there. Mark Trumbo, big power, $4,600, a little more than I would like to pay for him, especially since we've noted that Brett Anderson does a really good job of keeping the ball on the ground. But if Trumbo does lift it, it's probably going to go a long way. And then speaking of CJ Cron, $3,500 for a number 5 hitter in a lineup that can put some runs on the board. Jason Vargas isn't really the type of pitcher that's going to scare me off of a lineup or a hitter. So $3,500 looks like a nice bargain play if you're going to pony up elsewhere.
Yeah, and one other guy, I know you had mentioned him before, but he's actually the cheapest first baseman on the board here. Ike Davis should be back in the lineup, hitting right around the heart of the order at $2,700 against Taijuan Walker, wherever you don't have him. So that's a great play there as well. And moving on here to second base, obviously, surprisingly, D. Gordon with his stolen base upside. We know how heavily weighted stolen bases are. He's the most expensive option on the slate today. If I'm paying that kind of price for someone, it's going to be someone who can hit the ball more than 80 feet at a time. So it will not be D. Gordon for me. Obviously, some guys in some good spots. You had mentioned before, Howie Kendrick against Chase Anderson in a good spot. Colton Wong seems kind of pricey here, despite the good matchup. What do you think there?
Yeah, I mean, I have him on my short list of usable second basemen. The problem is he hits down order. $4,300 is more than I'd like to pay for him. $4,800 for Kendrick is a little bit pricey, but again, going to have some Dodger stacks. Where I have a Dodger stack, I'm going to have Gonzalez and Kendrick. Where I don't, I'm probably going to be fading both because, at least in Kendrick's case, price point's a little steep. But the names that I really like, Ben Zobrist is usable on teams that you're not using. Taijuan Walker, not a huge fan, but he's a 3-hitter at $4,200 at a position that really isn't great for offense. The name that I love here is Neil Walker at $3,700. Cleanup hitter in Miller Park that crushes right-handed pitching. I mean, I the pricing kind of baffles me a little bit. I'm going to be all over Neil Walker, whether it's his third base or second base. $3,700 is too good to pass up. And then as Drupal Cabrera, second base stinks. $4,000 for number 3 hitter. Again, price point's right. It's light for where he's hitting in the lineup, so I like him a little bit. And then name that's going to be available for the outfielder second base, Ricky Weeks, is cheap at $3,600. And as I noted on the FanDuel podcast, he's a guy that is in a platoon, but strangely was not lifted by Lloyd McClendon when facing a right-handed reliever, Houston Street, the other day. So if McClendon's going to continue to leave him out there, you don't run the type of risk that you usually do by saving some money on a platoon guy.
Yeah, absolutely. And like you said with Neil Walker, I mean, if you're rolling out some stacks, you've got second base or third base open, he's going to be one of those filler type of guys where he's in a great spot and he's cheap. And, maybe you don't have a second baseman, third baseman, whatever it may be in your stack. Go ahead and slot him into that extra spot at that price. Moving on to the hot corner here, third base. And we know David Wright mashes lefties. He's in a good spot, but $5,100. Definitely a price jump there on DraftKings for him.
Yeah, I can't do it. I mean, 5,100 is a little too rich for my blood. When surveying the rest of the position and figuring that as much as I like Wright, I don't love the rest of that lineup enough to invest $5,100 in him. The pricey name that I like is Matt Carpenter as part of a stack. If it's not a stack, 47 is a little bit high for Carpenter. He just doesn't have the type of power upside to justify that. But in a stack, leadoff hitter against Jason Marquis, again, $4,700. You kind of got to bite the bullet and grab him. Longoria, $4,500 against your favorite pitcher in the world, Dan Herron. Get your righty-on-righty action with Longoria. It's going to be some righty-on-righty abuse. Aramis Ramirez at $4,200 looks great. Love the Brewers today against the lefty at home. Panda at $4,200. Better as a left-handed batter facing righties, and Jerome Williams is the type of righty you want to get a piece of. David Freese, $4,200 is a little bit steep when you can compare him to when you have Aramis Ramirez and Panda at the exact same price point. But again, if you're going to go with that Angel stack, he's a prime get as their cleanup hitter. That's where he hit the last time they faced the lefty. Kind of got to have him. Neil Walker, we touched on $3,700. Good play at second or third base. And then his teammate Pedro Alvarez, still third base eligible at DraftKings, $3,600, hitting in a home run amplifying ballpark. Really good GPP play for that price. $3,600 is a steal for a guy that can mash the way that Alvarez can.
Yeah, absolutely. And so a lot of options there at third base, even some second basemen you can play there at third base. So get yourself some power exposure there in your tournaments. Next up, shortstop, which, as always, not a very particularly deep position. You had already mentioned Asdrubal Cabrera. He has shortstop eligibility. You've got guys like Jimmy Rollins in a good spot against Chase Anderson. He's at $4,200. Chris Owings, great discount over on FanDuel. Not one here on DraftKings. So at $4,000, he's a pass for me.
Yeah, I'll add two more names to your list there. Wilmer Flores, $3,300 is a really good price point for him. Do want to grab some Eric Stoltz, and he's certainly a more affordable option than David Wright for getting that Eric Stoltz exposure at a much thinner position. And Johnny Peralta, $4,400, not a great price point, but I expect him to probably hit fifth today for the Cardinals against Marquis. $4,400, not bad when you factor in the home run amplifying ways of Great American Ballpark, and when you factor in that Peralta gets to take hacks against Jason Marquis.
Yeah, you got to like that. And as we know, tons of offense just waiting to be had in that Cincinnati-St. Louis game tonight. So next up, outfield. And we don't need to tell you about the top options, but I will highlight something. Mike Trout is the sixth most expensive outfielder today. So if you are going to pay up, we don't really need to tell you Mike Trout and his upside. I mean, he's the best hitter in the game. It's not particularly close. $5,100, pricey, yes, but of course you can slot him in. A couple other expensive options. I know you had mentioned Ryan Braun. If he's back, he did pinch hit last game, so at $5,100, he's got some huge upside in that park as well. And obvious options at top, always in play. You've got your Andrew McCutcheons, your Giancarlo Stantons, all those guys. But who else are you looking at outside of the names that everyone knows from Sports Illustrated?
Chris Davis, a little bit more expensive here at DraftKings than FanDuel, but $4,500 against a lefty when I expect him to hit fifth for the Brewers. Still not too bad. A.J. Pollock, $4,500. A little pricey for what he is, but he's going to hit in a favorable lineup slot. I'd expect him to lead off. Pretty good very good against left-handed pitching, so not a bad price point. $4,300 is really light on Nelson Cruz. I know that O.co, the Oakland Coliseum, not exactly where you want to grab your hitters from. Don't usually like to grab hitters from a game with a 7 total on the board, but $4,300 is light for a guy that ranked in the top 25 in ISO and WRC plus against left-handed pitching since 2012. So Cruz looks like a good play. Ricky Weeks at $3,600. Again, leadoff hitter for that price. Really nice option. Two more cheap names that I got for you. Johnny Gomes against a lefty today, $3,600. Jonathan Neese isn't particularly bad against right-handed batters, but Johnny Gomes, $3,600 is at least that type of cheap platoon option you can round out a roster with if you really need to save some money someplace. Big power, got a chance to reach the seats with a guy like him. And then Gregory Polanco at $3,500 looks good to me. He's been hitting second for the Pirates. Miller Park, we know, as I've said throughout the podcast, really good for run production. Mike Fiers dealt with some shoulder soreness in the spring, so if he's less than 100%, the Pirates are capable of jumping all over him, and that would be quite favorable for the number 2 hitter for the Pirates.
Yeah, absolutely. And with that, that's going to go ahead and wrap things up here for us on the DraftKings Daily Trot. We've got a ton of awesome content at dailyfantasycafe.com to fix all of your baseball needs. I'm at BigLeague42. He is at BChad50. If you got any questions about today's slate, hit us up on Twitter. And good luck today. We will see you guys again tomorrow.